Right. So I'll move on to introducing our facilitator. Shine Dewovu is a passionate young lady with special interest in NGO, in education, education intervention and innovation, girls' education and educational development. She has worked for the past 11 years in various aspects of education in the public and private sector with significant classroom experience as a class teacher, subject teacher in the senior high school, and a teaching assistant in the University of Ghana. Shine also has experience working with both local and international NGOs such as Plan International, Vake Foundation, GEMS Education Solution, The Reading Factory, and Kaya Child Care. Ladies and gentlemen, with all the love and respect you have, help me welcome Shine Dewovu. You're most welcome, Shine, and over to you if you are ready.
Thank you, Fudge. Hello, everyone. Good evening. And I might say that I couldn't have had any better introduction than this. Fudge, thank you so much for introducing the session to us.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yeah, so we are going to begin. Sorry, just give me a minute.
That's fine.
Yeah, hello. Okay. I just need to clear my background a bit. All right, so thank you so much, Fudge. I love you talking about the foundations and all, and early literacy is all about that. So thank you, and thank you everyone for making a point to be here. I'm particularly excited to see all of you, but particularly Anita. It's a pleasure having you. So Anita, just be on guard, okay? I'll be calling you to just be giving us a few explanations here and there because you know what I mean. Okay, so without
I think Anita would enjoy doing that.
Let's just zoom quickly into this. I'm going to begin sharing my screen if you don't mind.
That's great.
Okay. All right, so we'll be looking at introduction to early literacy development. And then quickly, I want us to share our ways of working. Usually when I do this with most of our facilitators, teachers and all, I just encourage them not to share ways of working like you're giving your class rules and regulations, but you work together with your class to come up with ways of working, okay? Yeah, so for the purpose of this presentation, let me just quickly share this. So I would love that you take notes and also let's listen to learn, participate and ask questions, lots and lots of questions. One scholar said that learning doesn't happen with teaching, but rather with questioning. So I believe that when we go through the questioning process, it will allow us to explore all the other areas that we might not have touched on in the session. So to start with, I have this starter, I'll call it a starter activity. I just want to find out what you remember about your first reading and writing experience. I'm just going to give you a minute to think about it. What do you remember about your first reading and writing experience?
Great. Shine, this is really great. So if I'm going to start, my first reading and writing experience was way back at the elementary level where we were, I think, directed to join words, so S-O, so, G-O, go. It was very interesting and loving us at that time.
Okay, so you were more like singing it like a rhyme,
Precisely.
Go like jumping along with it.
Exactly.
That's great. That's good. Thanks, Fad, for sharing. So your experience was a good one, a beautiful one, and a nice one at that. Who else is ready to share? I think everyone should be ready. I should be calling anyone to just share with us. So Etienne, would you love to give it a go? Just share with us what you remember from your first reading experience.
You can feel free to put it in the chat section too if that's more comfortable. So Kat says, I also remember a video called Magic E, which we all laughed so much, which was all about how the E word changes, how the E word changes the pronunciation of words. Example, to hate. Amazing. So lovely to hear. Great. So my very own boss says same like what I said. So practicing writing through my first copy book. These are wonderful experiences. Amazing.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I think Yukasha said that it took me so many times to write 8. Okay. Yeah. And Anita said it's funny enough. I don't remember how or when I started reading. Yeah. So I think my experience is a bit closer to Anita's. I don't really remember, but I know very well at some point in my reading, writing experience, it was all in quotes, some kind of a torture. It wasn't fun. I mean, you come to class in the morning, that was in class 3, and then my teacher will stand there with a cane. And then, I mean, the first person, he gives you a book, and then you start reading, and somewhere in the middle, he says stop. Then he moves to the next one, and if you can't pronounce a word, I mean, be sure you will have some lashes at your back. So I really learned to read, not out of fun or anything, but out of fear. So I just had to follow keenly and just memorize the words as it is. So when I picked the book, I was actually bringing out of memory what I have heard the others read, but not actually relating what I'm speaking out there to what is in the book. So that is my experience. Yeah. So I can see we all have different experiences. And I just want us to reflect on all these experiences as we dive into like early literacy and all that entails. Let's see which of our experiences were the good. Let's see those ones that require a bit of improvement so that we would improve on our practice when we get a chance to impact life as far as early literacy is concerned. Yeah. So I'm going to move on quickly. Can you see my next slide?
Yes, what to do? Yeah, exactly. It's clear, very, very clear.
Okay. If you see my next slide, please let me know. Good. Okay, so quickly looking at our objective. By the end of this session, I'm anticipating that all of us will be able to explain what early literacy is, its domain and importance. And we'll also be exploring evidence-based strategies, tips, and activities to help support early literacy development. And then we'll have a reflective session. So we'll reflect on the session and then also commit to actions. So these are the 3 major areas we'll be looking at. And I would want someone to prompt us at the end of the session whether we've achieved this objective, so we need to go back to them. So without much ado, I have my first question. What do you understand by literacy? We've been talking about literacy, early literacy all this time. On top of your head, when we mention literacy, what comes to mind? Anyone can just answer or put in the chat
section. So I have a submission from Rosemary. She says, knowing how to read and write.
Good.
Her definition. Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm going to just ride on what Rosemary and Anita also just added. So I'm just going to ride on that to quickly just say that they are right by what they said, learning to read or write. So in general, when we talk about literacy in general, we talk about being the ability to be able to do something in a particular context. So we say that people are literate in maybe math, science literate, computer literate, this literate, and all that stuff. But for the purposes of this presentation, it is basically what they have said, learning to read and to write. Okay, so I'm just going to share the definition from an authority. The National Literacy Trust that defines literacy as the ability to read, write, speak, and listen in a way that lets us communicate effectively and make sense of the world. So it is not just about reading and writing, but it goes beyond reading and writing to being able to communicate in a world that's in a way that the world understands and you're able to connect well. So now that we know what literacy is, I'm just going to up it a bit by asking. So if you know what literacy is, what then is early literacy? I guess we'll just add early to the definition. Yeah. Anyone?
Exactly, I'm sure there are some issues coming. Oh, interesting, Felix. The floor is yours.
Hey, Charlie fan. Okay. As you called my name, I have to come out with my submission. Early literacy is, to me, is going simply to be that is beginning to learn how to read, write, and speak. So, as in a form of infants or children getting in their first way of like literacy ideas, that is how to read and write. So that is my submission.
Thank you so much, Felix. And you've just given me a great point to just move on. So Felix has just told us what he thinks early literacy is. Now, I am going to go on to tell you what early literacy is not. So we go to our next slide. Fad, can you please read what I have on the slide for?
Exactly. So with the first point, it is not about children actually reading and writing.
Okay. So I'm just going to allow like a few seconds pause for that to sink down. I love the expression on some faces. Yes.
Seriously.
In fact, mine has really changed.
Yeah, I know that, right? Okay. Now, so let's see what it is about. Okay. So if I say it's not about children actually reading and writing, okay, so let's move on. Fad, can you consider reading for us?
Right. It's about preparing children to read.
Yeah. So early literacy is not about forcing children to read this word. Okay, read it, like get going on. It's about preparing them for the actual task of reading and writing. Speaking or communicating in a way that makes sense of the world. It is about what children... Okay, Fad, please continue.
All right, so it is about what children know about reading and writing before they can actually read and write.
Okay, so I'm going to pause and then have that assimilated as well. So Felix.
Yes.
How is it now?
Oh, yeah, very, very clear, because I was kind of thinking of that sort, yeah, so it's under the same line.
Great, okay. So now we know what early literacy is not. I feel that my teacher in class 3 forcing me to just read at a time, if he had known, in quotes, or probably he knows, but maybe does not know how to put it across, would have supported me better to be able to read and write. So even though I was confident in other areas, performing, acting, poetry, so many things, jumping about and doing all that, I wasn't still able to translate that confidence into reading and writing because there was no way it was linked to it. I wasn't prepared for it. I was just forced to read. So early literacy is not about actually like So it's our preparing children to read. It also entails helping children to develop the skills they need to become successful readers. And I would like someone to just take note of skills, because that's the most important aspect of all the discussion we'll be having this evening. So preparing children, helping them to develop the skill that's needed, the skills that are needed to be able to read and to write. Okay, so now that we know what early literacy is not and what it is, when does it begin? Any thoughts, any ideas? Anita, would you love to help us?
Okay, I think it's the period you can start early literacy development is when I think you notice your child is able to recognize things and is able to speak up better. So maybe if your child sees a book and realizes that this is a book, sees a pen and sees that this is a pen and writes, then it's for making scribbles on book. I think that is the point where you can actually start to bring in the phonics and everything to help with the early literacy development. That's mine.
Okay, I'm just smiling from cheek to cheek. My cheek says from just hearing Anita speak. Okay, Cynthia is ready, so let's hear from Cynthia.
Well, in my opinion, I think it starts right when the child is in the womb. Like you start reading to the child, and then by the time it's born, to an extent, I feel like psychologically or something, the child will be developed in a way to start the full process of developing the skill. That's my 2 cents.
Oh, Cynthia, you are a shark.
I love this.
Okay, Felix. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for sharing. Felix.
Yeah, I was about to say exactly that, but like so all that I'll add to it is when the mother notices the child is at least trying to speak out, and that is learning the first language, that is learning from the mother. So that is when I think it's the development should start from.
Okay, good.
We have some few other submissions in the chat section as well.
Okay.
So from Ziba, she says from when the baby is born. Farida says from when the child is born. Victoria says, I think you can start as early as 6 months old. Winifred says it begins right after birth. Yes. Amazing.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so now I'm giving you guys some flowers. Okay, so you are all right. Especially for all those who said early literacy starts at birth. That's fantastic. Early literacy. So this is it. If we want to look at the very theories, the definitions and all that, we'll be breaking them into pre-literacy, emergent literacy, early literacy and all, okay? But then when we talk in general terms, okay, about early literacy, it begins right from birth till about 3 years. And in some cases, it even goes beyond, like from birth, like 3 to 5 years. That's when early literacy, like that's a period for early literacy development, okay? But then when we look at our context, most at times, okay, so our context as sports, we know we don't have babies coming to the sports. Okay, so before I say that, you are all right about reading to the child from when the child is a baby and all that. And when we come to developing skills, you realize that all those skills are developed when you begin. So you are all right about reading, starting from when the child is in the womb, reading, talking about things, singing and doing all that stuff. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to move on quickly. You can start dropping your questions in the chat function, yeah. So it begins in the first 3 years. In some cases, extended to 5 years of life, and is closely linked to the earliest experiences with the child has with books and with stories. Okay. All right. So moving from that, now we know what literacy is. We know what early literacy is and what it is not. We know when it begins. And let me quickly add, even though I'm going to say this later in the presentation, let me quickly add that in our case at the sports, because we have quite a number of children coming in who are not probably like babies and all that, most of the strategies, most of the activities, most of the tips that we are going to share this evening are things that you can really use to help the children develop their literacy skills. So even if you have an 8-year-old coming to the sports who probably cannot read, identify sounds and all that, don't say that they are not within the age bracket, so I can't do anything with them. I have to use some of these tips I'm going to talk to you about with people who are even in JHS. So these are skills that can be done like regardless, yeah. So when we talk about early literacy, we have 3 domains, okay, or components. We are looking at the oral aspect, vocabulary, listening, comprehension, speaking. It's just about talk, oral things, singing orally, talking, telling stories and all that. So we have the oral aspect. Then we have the alphabetic code. So this one we look at alphabet knowledge, we look at phonological awareness, we look at all of this stuff. And then the other part is the actual writing, the print, the concept of prints and all. Now, so these are just like 3 major areas. So if I pick an early literacy curriculum, I should be looking at these 3 broad areas under which all other things will fall. Now, the most important thing when it comes to early literacy development is the skills to develop. That is why I mentioned earlier, someone should just bookmark that or just note that down. So there are basic skills that should be developed when it comes to early literacy. Now, the first, I'll just take my time and go through this. The first is the narrative skills or the comprehension skills. So if we talk about narrative, what comes to mind? Anybody in the chats? Just stand on and speak to us.
Well, I'll say just as the name suggests, being able to narrate, so narrative and then understand, exactly.
So when it comes to early literacy, my dear volunteers, teachers, parents, and everyone here, it is about building that skill in the child, helping the child to be able to talk about stories, tell you things, tell you about what has happened, be able to share the understanding of what they might have seen or they might have heard somewhere, okay? So narrative. Now, when we move on, we just talk about activities that we can do to help develop these narrative skills, okay? So if you're a volunteer here, you get your sport, and you begin, probably you tell a story and ask your children to retell the story, you are developing their narrative skills. Or maybe there's an event and they have to tell you, oh, so what happened this weekend? What did you do? I went to the farm, from the farm, we cooked the yam. And so those are like ways by which you can develop the child narrative skills. All right. Then the next one is vocabulary. Now, let me quickly say that these skills are not isolated. They are not independent of each other. They are related, okay? They intertwine, they overlap. So it's not like you're teaching vocabulary in isolation. No. So if the child is talking to you about what happened in the farm, and the child probably saw maybe a rat and doesn't know the name, and mention it maybe the local language, and tell the child, oh, it is a rat, a pussy. Okay, the child has just developed a vocabulary. The child has just learned a new word. So that's the other aspect, getting children to develop new words, to develop their knowledge of new words, learn new words and all that. And then we have print motivation. When I see a book at first, I used to be quite scared of the book because of my experience. So when we talk about print motivation, it's about like the child being interested in a book, like the child sees a book and excited, okay, so that's a book. If maybe I hold this book upside down, like this, like the child sits there and says, but the mouse head is turned upside down or something, like the child is kind of motivated and interested in like, okay, what's going on? So those skills you should develop. The knowledge of letter knowledge. So if a child sees this, the child should know that, okay, in this book, there are some things that are written, okay? Now, let me quickly add that all these things doesn't happen at a go. It doesn't happen at once. It is a step-by-step process. But because you are talking of skills, I need to put all of this out there, okay? So don't be scared. Then the next one is phonics, phonological awareness. So this more like is one of my favorite part when it comes to developing the skills, because it has a way of combining all the other skills and bringing it to the fore. When you take phonics as a foundation for literacy. And I'll explain that in a bit. And then we have print awareness. Okay. So let me just quickly say something about the print motivation and the print awareness. In some books or in some write-ups, you have print awareness and print motivation together. So you say that they will say that there are 5 basic literacy skills, but where it's separated, we say like there are 6 literacy skills. So they are more or less just getting the child develop the interest in print, in books, loving to know what is in the book, stories and all, that's all, yeah. So these are the 6 major literacy skills. I'm going to pause and ask questions. I'm just going to allow a minute for everything to get sit down, and then we move on. So we have just looked at the literacy, early literacy. We have just looked at like the domains and the skills.
Right. So Shine, I noted a question in the chat section by Okasha. He says, sorry, let me revisit. Okay. He says, is early literacy all about children? What then happens if an adult like me preparing myself to learn a new language?
Oh, okay.
Interesting topic.
Right, so I think that's in my presentation. I mentioned that maybe you might not have had the right foundation to learning, to literacy, like I mentioned earlier. You can always, all of these means of instruction, this early literacy steps can just be applied to you. So you can't share, it's not like maybe because you're not a baby and you're not a child. I mean, these skills does not apply to you. But here, we are sounding the significance of starting early with the kids, not when they are fully grown before we begin an intervention. Great. And I will also add by saying that I have been directly involved in just using early literacy strategies, especially phonics, as a means of getting some children in JHS, in some low-performing schools in some communities, to be able to improve their literacy skills before writing their BEC. So they were prepared for exams, and as part of the intervention, we needed to begin teaching them diagraphs. We had to start talking about consonant blends and just getting them to be able to decode words. Okay, so it applies across board. Yukash, I hope I've answered the question.
Right, I believe it's over then. Yes, question well answered.
Okay, so I'm just going to jump, I'm looking at my time as well, so I'm just going to jump quickly into, yes, activities, tips, strategies. That will help us like develop these skills in early learners. Okay. So apart from phonics, one of my major go-to when it comes to developing early literacy skills is read aloud. And I'm sure in EduSpots, read aloud is not like a new strategy to us. Yeah.
Not at all.
Reading aloud is the single most important activity for building the knowledge and skill children need to later reading. That's Adams. So read aloud is very, very, very important. Okay. So I'm just going to talk a bit about it. It's one of the things that we should take note is that we are getting children to develop their interest in reading. And the only way we can do that is to read for them. So we'll read to capture their interests. And then when we are doing that, we should be quick to highlight the children's favorite books. So big books they will love to read. No, every child is fascinated about Anansi. I don't know about these days, but those days I was quite fascinated with Anansi stories. Yes. So just look at what your learners are fascinated about and just like select a book in that order. Yeah. So it gives you the opportunity to also introduce new vocabularies to your learners. When you read aloud to them, you might come across words that they don't know. And you say, oh, okay, so this is jiggly, or the thing drips. Then you tell them the meaning of like drip or something, yeah. And one of the things I just want to mention as part of the read aloud is to establish read aloud routines. So in our sports, we can think about doing that. Establishing a routine where like we read aloud to the children. It can probably be just a 3-page like short, like, I don't know if you can see like something short. You just have few words in there, it's a card, very few, like 2 sentences or maybe a sentence, and then like,
Yes.
yeah. So just establish the routine. They come in, just tell them a brief story or read something brief to them, and then we are good to go. So quickly, let me just talk about selecting books as part of the read aloud. So there are like rules for selecting books. I think there's one that I am putting over here. There are other ones I'll just share later. So this one is for children who can actually read. So children who have actually started reading and all. So getting them to hold up their fingers and they read the first page, and then they show using their fingers the number of words they can't read. So if by the first page they are lifting up about 5 fingers, then it means the book is too high for them. Okay. Another way to do this is to use decodable readers. And this is my go-to, and this is what I would advise. Decodable readers will just look at the level of the children, the sounds you have taught them, and give you like the such stories that cover only those sounds and those letters. Okay, so that is it. Okay, quickly, the next one is storytelling. So which skill do you think we can develop when we tell stories? I'm going to rush through this ones quickly. Anyone at all? Which skill can we develop when we do storytelling? Anyone at all can? Hello?
Give it a go, Cynthia.
Great. What else?
Narrative skills.
Great. And comprehension as well, because they should be able to even understand before they're able to tell you what they have read and all. What else? Do you think we'll develop vocabularies when we tell stories?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think they'll be motivated to want to read, and with the pictures and everything they see in the story you show them? Do you think they'll be motivated?
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
Exactly. So you realize that storytelling is a fantastic way of building their skills. Okay. You can get them to role play, get them to retell their stories. They dress up. Maybe you're talking about announcing with a pot of wisdom. You just get them to wear something big, color their hair with chalk or something like a Nancy. So we can just, play around this. Now, let me quickly just share 5 finger steps to like telling stories, to get children to tell you the stories you have told them. So remember this, they are not stories they've read. You have told them the story. To get them to retell the story, just use the 5-finger retell strategy, where they talk, first of all, have them remember the characters. So this finger will represent the characters. So there was Anansi and Leopard in the story. Then the next one, where did the story happen? Maybe in the forest. The third one, what happened at the beginning of the story? What happened in the middle? And what happened at the end? So how many of us think that when we use like this 5-finger strategy to excite the kids, it will not get them wondering like, what do I say in the story at all? How many of us think so? You can just use the chat.
Great. And I think this is a very simple strategy. Yes, it would aid the understanding as well. Very, very simple.
So who are the people in the story? Anansi and goats. Where did it happen in the forest? What happened in the beginning? In the middle of the story, at the end. So even a child is not confident enough to be able to like retell a story you have told them. And that gets them to develop their comprehension skills, develop their speaking skills. There are so many skills that they develop. Okay, so you can get them to sing along, learn a new song, sing like Fudge talked about the S-O-S-O-G-O-Go, even though that was actually wrong. But it created some excitement, like for you, and you were happy about it. There are so many rhymes, there are so many songs. I get them to and play lots of games. I'm racing against time. Play lots of games, okay, as part of developing the skills. Okay, so the first game I have here is this. Now, this game is more like helps us build into something else, okay? And I'll ask you what you think this game helps us build into. So this animal sound game. What animal is this? What is this? Who can tell us? I want someone who has not spoken today.
Dog.
That's a dog. Okay, what sound does a dog make?
Whoa.
Okay, good. Now let me show another one. This one might be a little difficult. Which is this?
I think that would be a bee.
That's a bee. Okay. Can you think of the sound the bee makes?
I think it makes something like that. It buzzes a lot.
Okay, great. So let's look at this one. What animal is that?
The cat. Cat.
That's a cat. You know, I'm just getting my early learners to share, to talk. Have you seen it? They're recognizing the pictures. They are telling me what it is. They are making the sound. So what sound does it make?
Meow.
Exactly. Okay. So, you know, having told me this, I as like the volunteer at the sports would use these as the like basis to just introduce other things. So I am using your knowledge of sounds, you know sounds already. Okay, and I'm going to build that into another part of my presentation. So if I need to introduce letter sounds and all, I'll begin with the sounds you already know. There are sounds everywhere. Animals make sounds, instruments make sounds, there are sounds in the environment, they are everywhere. So if I build on your knowledge of sounds already and I begin to say, okay, the same way we have sounds all around, letters also make sounds. It makes it easier for them to comprehend, okay? So like the animal sound game you can play, and that builds into phonics instruction where you talk about letters making sounds and all. Okay, any questions? I can't say to go into all the games. Any questions, please?
I think considering the time, we could move on and then just get the time for Q&A.
Questions. Okay. All right. So yes, we've done the animal sounds. Then based on that, I talk about instrumental sounds. Now there's something interesting about the instrumental sounds, okay, that I've always loved to do, and we can do this when we actually decide to take on phonics as a medium of building literacy. Like getting different containers, hitting each container at a time for children to listen to the sound, then get them to close their eyes, hit the container again, and see if they can tell you which container made which sound. So that's like a way of just getting them into the whole letter sound bit and getting them excited. Because if you just come at me and you show me a letter and tell me, okay, I have one here, this is a hardcover book. Just like show me this and say, this is G. I don't see why this is J or this is, yeah, I don't get it. But the moment you start telling me about animal sounds, instrumental sounds, sounds in the environment and all, I'll be linking my knowledge of sounds to these letters. And it makes it easy for me to be able to like go with the flow and just get going. Okay, so I have a game here. Games are ways of developing literacy skills, okay? And one of these games is I Spy. Is Anita here? Is Anita able to just take us through this game? So this game is more like a phonics game, but you can use it whether you are doing a science activity, you are doing a math activity, whatever activity you are doing, you can adapt this like this game. So you just hold your hands. I spy with my little eye, like I spying something, okay? So I'm assuming I've taught you guys letter sounds. Something that begins, okay, let me just get this down my screen so I can see. Okay, so I spy with my little eye, something used at home for frying or cooking. It begins with the sound. What am I spying? But what do you think I'm spying?
I think you're spying a frying pan or a pan. Right?
Okay, so for early learners, you have pictures to guide them. But while they grasp the concept of sounds and everything, you can eliminate the pictures and just talk them through it, okay? So I spy with my little eye something that begins with S and ends with It usually makes us feel hot in the day. What am I spying? Like with your hand all over. What am I spying? In the chat, please.
Oh.
Sun, good. Okay, so you can do that. So if you want to do a science experiment or you've done a science experiment, you want to test and understand like some of our challenges, or maybe you want to spy a shape or something. I spy with my little eye. The science people should help us. Something that tastes maybe blue when you add acid to it. What am I spying? I spy with my little eye something that is used in the classroom for cleaning. So you have your, the fact that your hand is on your eye and you're moving about to excite the children. Okay. So that's, you just keep giving them this, yeah. So I spy is one of them. So the next one is I'm going on a journey. I'm going on a journey. So now we are looking at the tips, the strategies, the activities. We've just zoomed into it, yeah. So this one would also go to reinforce comprehension, okay? It's not complete, good. Okay. Would also go to build their narrative skills, phonological awareness, phonics, yeah. So I'm going on a journey. I will take a rat. The next person to play this game would say that I am going on a journey. I will take a rat, and so you have to mention my item before mentioning yours. And your item should end with at. I'm going on a journey. I will take and whatever you mention, if it's a CVC word, like 3-letter word, consonant, vowel, consonant, I love it. But if you want to upgrade it, that's fine. But when you are dealing with the children at the sports, whatever sounds you teach them, this activity should fall.
Oh man. Hi, Shine. Hello, Shine, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think I went off, right?
Exactly, I think.
Oh, sorry. So I am going on a journey. I will take a rat. Who is confident to go next? Remember to mention my word before yours. So I'm going on a journey. I'll take a rat, and then the third person should mention my item, the second item before his or her item. Is it clear?
All right, I think it's clear. So Okasha says bat. So I'm going on a journey. I'll take a rat and a bat, right? Shoma also says I will take a rat, a hat, bat, and a cat. Winifred says rat and a hat. Interesting.
Yeah. So, these get children to develop their vocabulary. Now, if I don't have knowledge of so many like word families, like word that ends with arts and all. By getting my friends to mention, if I'm the fifth person, by the time it gets to me, I know 5 words that have the at sound, or I know 5 new words that I didn't learn by going to read a book or something. Okay, so that is also another way to develop the skill. So I'm going on a journey. I'll take a rat, a hat, and a rat, a hat, a pat, a mat, and a bat. Like that's the way to go. So you can do this with your learner science, whatever you want to do, just adapt it, and it's a great way to go. Okay, so yeah, now the rest, I'm just going to show this quickly, and then like whoever is up to task can just answer. Okay, so what's the beginning sound for the first picture? So instead of just showing pictures, we are not reading anything, but we are still learning and developing skills. Have you realized it? We are learning so many vocabularies from our friends and all. Yes. Okay, so goes with this action. So both of them have the sound. Now, which one is the odd? Oh no, I've just answered my question. Which one is the odd one out?
Abi, you know that.
Sorry.
The third one.
Hello, Shine.
Which one is the odd one out?
The bed.
The
bed.
The bed. Why is it the odd one out? So questioning, you are questioning your children, and they should be able to tell you why they think so. So why is it the odd one out?
Because it has the bill sound. It starts with a bill sound.
Okay, it starts with good. All right, so you could probably ask follow-up questions. So can you give me any other words that has the sound at the beginning? They mention it. How about the sound at the beginning? So by using questioning, you are also like developing like some of these literacy skills and all. Yeah. So matching activity. How much time do we have? Okay. So I have like matching activities, and this matching activity, you can adapt them in different ways. Like you could just line up, okay, let me move quickly to this particular one. Good. So you have like images, you can cut them out of like a newspaper or something, just paste them somewhere on the wall or put them on the table, line up like letter cards. Letter cards, you can easily use like carton, empty cartons, just cut them out and write on them. Like you can easily do this. Like you do quite a number of them, just spread them on your table. Then you mention a sound. You just mention a sound, and your children will go to the table, look through these sounds, pick the ones that you just mentioned, move to the board and paste it under the correct picture, like this. So that's another way to like do this. So you can adapt the matching activity and do it several ways. So this particular matching activity I have named, let me see, is it listen, run, and post. So they listen to your sound, they go and pick the sound and go and post it at the right place. It's just a revised version of the read, run, write. Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm just going to quickly, yeah, I'm moving to the end now. So what are some of the challenges like? All right, so let me just ask this. Good. So one of the questions that came in when I requested for some questions to come in before the session, having all this in perspective, why do you think early literacy development is important to us as EduSpots? Why is it important? I'm running out of time. Anyone share, why do you think it's important? I want you to look at a broader picture when like answering this question. Why is, so all this you talked about, these plenty things like here and there, jumping about and all, it's exciting, but why is it important to us as EduSpots?
Yes, you can feel free to put it in the chat section as well.
Hi,
Right.
hi.
Right, Wilfred, give it a go.
Yeah, yes. I think it will motivate them. Early literacy is very important because it will motivate them to continue to join a program. And secondly, it gives them confidence. It's using them confidence and develop their speech as well.
Yeah, a very important point. If I was taught English like this, I'd be one of the happiest
You would
young
have-
girls playing now. All right.
Exactly. So
Writing
Felix,
so many books as a baby.
exactly.
Okay,
So
can
I think we have Shoma. Exactly. Without a good educational background, the children will continue to struggle throughout the educational journey, which can be very discouraging. So as an importance of early literacy, this is what she submitted. Amazing.
Yeah.
Felix also has his hands up. Yes, Felix, give it a go.
Yes, I think if I got the question clear, it was why is it important for EduSpots to engage in that is early literacy, right?
Yeah.
So,
So, this question cuts across.
Yes.
I just want us to think like holistically, not fix ourselves in a box or something, but
Oh,
we
yeah,
are
yeah. But
EduSpots,
as
okay?
we are EduSpots, I am thinking of EduSpots first. So I think that is where I
There's
get
no
my
problem.
answer from. So please, if you pardon me.
There's
with
no
that.
problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
You see, for you to educate someone or to let someone have interest in something, first you have to prepare the person. As you said, early literacy is about preparing, but not just forcing the person to learn. So I think it's a good idea for EduSpots for us to engage in early literacy, for us to first prepare the mindset of our volunteers, our participants, for them to be able to read, write, and understand little things before they get into the world.
Okay, good. So just a follow-up on Felix submission. Having taught them about the phonics, the sounds and everything, what actually happens is that by preparing them, you are actually getting them to even start reading. Because when they know the sound, they're able to blend sounds. And when they're able to blend these sounds, they're able to look at words, and then their knowledge of sounds, they decode these words. Okay, and they're able to pronounce them. So they already know how to even read before they even start reading. I don't know if you get it. And it also helps them when you come across, it's not every word you teach the kids. When they come across words that are not, that are unfamiliar words, they're able to use their knowledge of the sounds to be able to decode the words. So even though they don't understand, they're able to read. And then the next step is wanting to understand what they just read. So it's really important. Yes, we are preparing them, but we are actually preparing them in a way that's making them read the right way before they actually become fluent, confident, and all. So just to follow on like your submission. I have another hand. Fad, please, can you just check this as for us? Can we have questions and all that as well? Anyone with a question or anything?
Great. So Ziba says it's the foundation for the learning of all other subjects. Choma says, without a good educational background, children would continue to struggle through their, I think I've read this one. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I dropped out. And that's why my network is sort of lagging. All right.
Okay. So it's important, definitely. And most of it, I think we've all seen from like our discussion that it's just important. And I am looking at it from a bigger picture where having children do like building their early literacy skills will get them to be able to produce the kind of results we want them to produce. Like they are able to read, we do these literacy challenges, we do the reading festivals, we do the reading clinics. Some sports mention like they're planning to have like a reading clinic and all that kind of a thing. When we get our children to be able to like have the basic or the foundation, they are able to read well, and we are even able to show to the world out there what we are doing with our literacy sessions. how much we are putting into it, how we are building the foundation for like actual learning. And that goes a long way to like, it does a lot. So yeah, prove understanding. Okay. So Kat talked about improving understanding. That's very, very true. Yeah. So let me just quickly, I know our time is, let me just, so all of this is just sharing the importance, helping children make connections, which is important, promoting social and emotional development. We are looking at like empowering children, empowering young people. And for us as teachers, education practitioners, having the knowledge of all these things builds us the confidence and puts us in the capacity to be able to better support our learners. So I think that is really important. So yeah, I'm going to end here. Do we still have time to talk about a challenge or two? Any challenges we are
Well, I think we can spare.
Face.
Yes, fine. So yes, give it a go. I think we have a bit of some few time to learn. Yes, it's
Okay,
super
so
important. Give it a
we
go.
can't talk about early literacy without talking about challenges. So like, what challenges do you envisage? What challenges have you encountered when it comes to early literacy? So whilst you are putting your answers in the chat function, let me say that one of the challenges that I encounter when it comes to early literacy is resources. You know, early literacy, resources have like a strong bearing on like early literacy. And is it books? Is it getting the pictures and all that stuff? And it made me develop an interest in developing learning resources. And please, when it comes to learning resources, we can find a way of like looking at what we have around and how we can make very good use of it, especially if help is not readily coming. Like using the cardboards, using the egg crates, using like the sticks. If you don't have popsicle sticks, you'll use the, what's the stick? The chichinga sticks to just put up some activities and all. So for me, that's one area that's been a challenge. And the fact that it feels overwhelming for early educators. But please remember, as noted on EduLit Tuesdays, all these things doesn't happen at once. It's a step-by-step, like it's a step-by-step process. So take it one step at a time. And if you are not confident, just ask for help. No one knows it all. No one size fits all. So if you are supporting your learners and you think you need help with maybe a particular resource, you don't know how to go about it, it comes to subject knowledge, maybe you are dealing with older children, please just reach out and then you receive the help. Yeah, I think I'll just put it here.
Great. So I
Okay,
think,
Toby would want to say something.
Toby, right. So the platform is now open for questioning. So if you have a question, it's either you put it in the chat section or you raise your hand. I call you, you unmute and then speak. Right. I think Felix has his hand up. Felix, give it a go. Hello, Felix.
But sorry, I think I didn't lower my hands in the first place.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. So Shine, during your presentation, I was thinking, how, with all these strategies given, how are we going to deal with kids with special needs when it comes to early years literacy? So probably a kid might, all right. Amazing. So yes, that's the question I wanted to ask.
Okay, so I think when it comes to special needs, we are not in the capacity to maybe assess and say that, okay, this is the need a child have. So fact, to put the question in a bit of perspective, is it that a child has reading challenges or difficulties, or takes a longer time to probably comprehend some of the activities and all? So when it comes to special needs, yes, we have children like who probably would need specialist support or help. That is like in a different space and all. But if it just has to do with learning difficulties, from experience, most of the children will think that the teachers will say, where they were born, most of the children will say that too. Are actually on team way, like their brains are not dead. It is the means of instruction that is making them look that way. Do you get it? So like that, so I'll just answer it this in these two parts, where there's actually a learning need that will need special attention, so special education need. And then there's actually that part that the strategies, the means, the activities and all that are not right for the child. So the child is unable to comprehend. So remember I mentioned people were in JHS and we had to go back to telling them the sound of single letters and diagrams whilst they go writing BEC. So at times it is not the kids, but it's the instruction, it's the resources, it's the personnel and everything. So we just build our capacity and put ourselves in a way that we can support. I see Saraswati's hand raised.
Great.
Why am I so excited seeing her hands?
I tell you.
Hello.
We have the literacy queens here.
Hello, Shine. Thank you very much. I enjoyed the whole session. I think I'll come back again to you for extra activities into my archives. Okay, to add to what you mentioned about children with special needs, it's quite challenging because if you don't have knowledge in identifying what kind of specialty, it makes it difficult to actually diagnose what the problem is and find alternative ways of supporting the child. So I believe that as a volunteer in a sport, if you identify it, normally with my experience, I've seen that the challenges mostly children with a lot of hyperactivity, they have a lot of energy, so they wouldn't pay attention. Others would, it takes a longer period to comprehend. That is why alternative ways of doing things become very important. So for instance, let me use one of the activities that Shine did with the animal bits. So you bring the card that has the spelling of the animal and the sound that goes with it. So in a situation where the child can't even see well, I frame talking about, okay, this is a jamoa, this is a cat, and the cat goes meow. So these little things draws these children's attention to it. So it is very, very, very important that if you have any activity that we are doing, it is very important to add alternative ways of letting the children get the attention. So if I can't see, I can hear. If I can't hear, I can see and feel it. So if I am running to pick an object, a friend would tell me, would sound the word. So these alternatives would support a child with learning challenge. I don't want to say learning disabilities, but learning challenges. So basically that's what I'll add on. So importantly, as much as possible, let's use alternative ways of supporting these children and not forgetting our everyday games that we have in the house.
Yeah.
It also brings a lot of learning out of it. If I am playing auntie and I'm okay, the sound of the day is ah. Today our auntie, you're just going to say ah. And at the end of the day, a child that have difficulty remember that, when we went to the sports, we were learning a sound called ah. And as I'm playing the auntie, I know that I bring the left leg is ah, I bring the right leg is ah. So this continues consistently. The child picks it. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm giving you some flowers.
Such a lovely session. Right. Okay. Yes, feel free as I said to put your questions in the chat section. Exactly, Felix.
Yeah,
amazing.
I think what my sister just said, it's very laudable, and basically if you are to introduce someone to anything, I think you have to really start from the person's known, what the person already knows, and you sell that to the person. So I think that is already our CLED program. I remember we learned something like, if you want to sell something to someone, you have to basically introduce it to the person from what the person already have interest in. So as she made mention of AMPE, so if the person is interested in AMPE and you use AMPE to teach the person, I think they'll have the interest and even use that as when they are playing to even learn more on their own. So I think it's very laudable and very clear. And I love his addition, her addition rather, sorry.
Thank you so much.
Great. I can feel I can feel you putting some clear knowledge to use. Amazing. Such a wonderful leadership development program, right? So if you have any other question, feel free to put it in the chat section, or as usual, or mute and then ask your question.
Okay.
Right. Great. So with all the strategies you've given, I believe this would incite children to read, but then there are some specific children. I'm adding a follow-up question that probably don't have the spirit, or don't have the spirit to sort of read. I was once a child like that. I never liked reading. Yes, there wasn't anything you could do to incite me to read, but then I don't know how the whole thing changed. Currently, I do take pride in, solace in reading. Great. So is there, apart from some of the strategies you've mentioned, are there any other ways, like, in fact, any other peculiar ways to get them to read?
Yeah, Fad. My hands is up. That's
Felix.
that.
All right, give it a go.
Yeah,
Yes.
as you said, you were having problem, like you were not having the interest, like, so all that I mentioned, my sister just added that, starting with AMPE. So, you know, if you start with what the person already have interest in, the known, what the person already knows, and you build upon to teach the person something new, definitely the person will come on board and show interest. But if you start from teaching the person big letters without preparing the person, letting the person get ready for even the teaching that you're about to do, definitely nobody will be interested. So I think first we have to let the person get the interest, and starting from what the person already knows, what the person already have interest in. So as you were saying, you were not having interest in reading or learning, right? So here lies the case. The teacher has to first ask you what you have interest in. Maybe you have interest in football, then maybe football, okay, what are some of the things you can learn? The teacher can teach you in football. That is playing. If you want to play a ball, 3-letter words or 4-letter words that the teacher can use from the football that you have interest in. Then the teacher will be building upon that area. Then small, the teacher can introduce other areas into it. So I think teaching the person or getting the person's interest is of first interest key.
Okay, so just to add on to what Felix just said, okay, we have letter die. It's like a die. You know the Ludo die that we throw. Hello, Father, am I still on? I'm off.
You are still on, but I don't know if it's the network.
Yeah, so we have a die. I think it's a video. It's a link. Yeah. So you just create die with the normal Ludo die with the numbers on it. This time around, they are not numbers, they are letters that are written on it. Some of them are like diagrams, others are like consonant blends. If I say consonant two, or like K and L, K, okay, in one side. So they just toss the die, like throw it, like playing Ludo. They just toss it, whatever like letters show up, they make the sound. So, but just by playing Ludo, the game we know, just by playing that, they are learning sounds. And then we have like 3 die, you put them together, you throw them, and then you blend all the letters that the die shows. So if one die shows K, the other one shows I, and the other one shows maybe P, it's cap or pap, whichever way you like, you blend it. They can be correct words, they can be nonsense words. It could be sight words, you blend it. So there are different ways, like activities and all of getting the children to learn. And as I mentioned, you don't have to do all these things at once. These are one step at a time, and a step doesn't progress well, you just come back, look at how you adapt it, but don't feel overwhelmed. And I want to just say that out of experience and like years of doing this kind of instructions, differentiated activities, using like building on their relevant previous knowledge, using phonics and all, it does work. Like it works for most of our children. That's why there is this quote that says that phonics instruction is, so I'm zeroing in on phonics. Phonics instruction is beneficial to all, crucial for some, and harmful to none. So beneficial to all, crucial for some, and harmful to none. So that's just like closing words to say.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to ask you for that. So beneficial for, crucial for some, and then like the last point. Great. That's amazing. Thank you very much, Shine. So yes, as a last word, what do you have for us? Just like as a last word, what do you have for us, the whole volunteer team, and then everyone joining?
Okay, so I would just want to say that let's like reflect on everything we've just looked at today. It's not everything is not in the session we just had, but just reflect on what the discussions we've just had, and just take one main thing that we are going to do to improve our practice. Maybe you are not with early learners, you deal with older children or young children. What is that one thing you are going to do differently to help improve their literacy skills? So I just want us to reflect on just that's one thing you are going to do differently. Even if you don't have the capacity to do it, just take the decision to pick that one thing you are going to do, and then seek help or the support you need to be able to do it and do it well. And I believe that it will go a long way to help you as a practitioner, as a volunteer, and also help the children in the long run. Thank you. So those are my last words.
Thank you very much, Shine. We really appreciate you having time off to take us through strategies to get kids involved in reading and stuff like that. It's been an amazing session. I've really enjoyed it, and then thank you very much. Yes, thanks to everyone who made time to join. I'm sure you guys have also learned very well as I have, and I believe we are going to put these strategies into practice when we go into our sports, in our classrooms, in fact, everywhere we find ourselves with kids, to just make everything lovely for them. Thank you very much, Sign, and then thanks to everyone over here. Have a wonderful evening. I'm going to close the session now.
Thanks, Shine.